child, bastard and beast, warlords them first to the feast. Come claim if you're able a spot at this table, mild and meek down on your knees. For hide and seek, it's time that we feed. Your heart is racing, blood is running cold. Your fractured will is whispering. Far away, here be lions. Say goodnight, with each part does your sanity die. Sucking the life out, letting the dark inside. Say a prayer as the light leaves your eyes, or scream all you like, your lightning can't hear you. Scream, now scream, your lightning can't hear you. Scream, now scream, now scream, scream to suicide. Don't choke on your pride. Scream, scream, now scream, yeah, I'm gonna watch you bleed. Fence and flee, how does it feel? You're bound as blade, those scars will not heal, no. Lost in suffering, drowning in your tears. Want someone somewhere, tell me. Go from here, liar. Say goodnight, with each bite does your sanity die. Sucking the life out, letting the dark inside. Say a prayer as the light leaves your eyes, or scream all you like, your lightning can't hear you. Scream, now scream, the rose can't hear you. Dressed in rage inside my cage, almighty put him else who still bound to the flame that I bear, buried alive in the coffin of the hope I used to be. I'll scream all I like, 'cause we're all men here. Forever falling into my mind, deeper, the shadow of hope I left far behind. Just a stranger, we all strange inside. You can run, but there's nowhere to hide. So scream all you like, no one can hear us. Follow me, come follow me, to mighty Buddha soon. Still bound to the flame that I've been. No release from this empty waking wonderland. Just believe if you like, 'cause we're all men here. Scream all you like, 'cause we're all men here.
Oh, drifting tender, comrade, heroes ride. Her gallant severed away with the tide. The storm head gathers, comrade, heroes ride. Illusions scattered away with the tide. Why do weathered warriors wander their way where the wanting wonders wait? Hark, the herald's anchors away. Here the happens mine escape. Freedom forgone, sinking abyss, comets crumble, Phoebus fades under cosmic clamor decay. Hides the path untaken, ancient echoes come right, heroes ride. In deafening silence, away with tide. A wave of hazard, come right, heroes ride. All in and windward, away with the tide. Stellar story, star ruby strewn, slipping sideways. escape. Come ride, heroes ride, ride the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. Staring at death, I take a breath. There's nothing left, now close my eyes for one last time and say goodbye. Lying naked while the snow falls all around me, drifting closer to the edge, but she won't have me. Wake up and sweat, full of regret. Try to forget these memories lurking beneath, lost in a dream. Unchosen paths, a broken past, forspoken wrath. The pain won't cease. I'll find no peace, no sweet release. Fragile creatures, we are taught to fear the reaper, ever running. We are dead before we meet her. These voices telling me let it go. I try and try, but I can't say no. This endless nightmare has just begun. My heart is dragging me down into oblivion. The endless lies I've cast aside, lock them in ice. Steel is my soul, my blood won't cold. I've gained control. Fearless creatures, we all learn to fight the reaper. Can't defeat her, so instead I'll have to be her. These voices screaming to let go. This time I'm screaming back, no, no, no. Don't say no. My mind's made up. Yeah, my fear is gone. Open my eyes now. Here I come for the last time. Say goodbye for the last time. Say goodbye for the last time. These voices screaming to let go. This time I'm screaming back, no, no, no. Don't say no. My mind's made up. Yeah, my fear is gone. Open my eyes now. Here I come. Oblivion. Shintamani, Shintamani, Shintamani. The sigh of the shifting sea, the kiss of the salt sweet breeze, the white of her silken dress stained in red, her memory fading fast, her mother sits, eyes downcast, a torn uniform in hand, farewells unsaid. That once a certainty, lost in grief, a daughter's desperate cries, unheard pleas, forsaken, beaten, tried, on her knees. A prayer passes from her lips into her soul, the goddess whispers. A heartbeat without harmony is moonlight without dark. The heart seek of equilibrium. With balance will your worry part. So still this broken melody, and there will shoulder thee. One last step, only leaving an empty heart down by the sea. Empty heart down by the sea. Shintamani, 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 Shintamani. Legacy of the lack, a continent in flames, the shores of her homeland stained in red. A memory fading fast, the people's hope, eyes downcast, a shattered faith renewed in goddess grace. We pray. Shintamani, 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 Shintamani. The late once a certainty, lost in grief, a people's desperate cries, unanswered pleas, forsaken, beaten, tried, on their knees. A prayer passes from their lips to their souls, the goddess whispers. A heartbeat without harmony is moonlight without dark. A heart seeking equilibrium, with balance will your worry. How still is flowing heart. So still this broken melody, and never shoulder thee. One last step only, an empty heart down by the sea.
Shrieks knife through the deep, natureless creatures perverted and evil. From foulness rise, a vermin tide. Teeth bare, clawing the air. Sin wrapped in sinew, the rats do not fear you in slaughter's king. The piper weeps, just wax mark on your back. Here in the valley, your death casts no shadow. Sin is laid, comes from the dead. Lay bare and clean, wrapped deep in the bones that feed the menagerie. Burns hot, burns brief, follow till there's nothing left but ash. Dark horizons, void cities, pandemonium. From the borders, chaos bleeds, savage nobles culture feeds. Pandemonium, here behind us, follow me. Dig in, pull back the skin. See what's inside you, the sickness that drives you. Beating back, demoniac. Pride breeding, blood fried these seeds. Run and weaken the fruits of your making. Testify, come take a bite. Bite down, blood in the cut, choking on life as the light slowly swallow and fade away. Or
All right, good morning and welcome everybody to Lore Lines episode 122. We are going to be talking about Dawn Trail weapons and etymology today. We have Shadowmeowth and Aeneas with us so far. You may notice the overlay is a little bit broken. That's my fault. I'll be fixing it as we go. But good morning, everybody. How are you? How are we weathering the storm? Except for Meowth.
I have no storm.
You don't have a storm. You don't.
I'm stormless.
I am getting a credit for a full day of power outages in
Nice.
my area, despite my power only flickering. So the meter, I guess, was lying to them about whether or not there was power. So I get an extra $5 back in my bank account, a whopping $5
Yay.
for storm stuff.
You can buy some gum. All right. Meowth, how are you? What have we been up to this week? Aside
I've
from
been streaming.
Pokemon.
I've been streaming Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, correct? And maybe I possibly intrigue people about the story and the themes in that game, which I consider a triumph. We got out my script in the video, so that's also great. I mean, not great. I mean, it's good. It's just that I didn't expect it to be doing as well as it seems to be doing. Let's cross fingers. And and what else? Well, as usual, thinking stuff and theorizing, so that part is then it's been like this since Dawn Trail released. So yeah, but yes, basically that. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Aeneas, I saw that you popped in for a bit. How is AetherCon going? That's going on this weekend.
I haven't been tuned in to EtherCon that much. I do have several friends who've been doing presentations. The Chocobo race went really well. I had fun watching that at the very least.
Nice.
So, work has unfortunately prevented me from tuning into a lot of streams recently, which sucks. Mostly normal on weekends for the time being, at the very least. So I've missed coming and hanging out with you guys on Saturdays. It was like my weekly get to talk about lore, and my poor Static has been feeling the fact that I haven't had another place to vent. So I'll be doing call-outs, and then I'll just be dropping lore bombs and doing more call-outs like I did and just say some groundbreaking shit. They're like, no, go back. And I'm like, no, we don't have time for that. There's another mechanic.
I love it. I love it. And I definitely feel that work has been having me run all over the country. So I was in Seattle for a week. I'm going to be in Jersey next week. And then we have Gateway. And Zent is asking in chat, has Yumi gone full Charlie on Ultimo with the fans at AetherCon yet? That is tomorrow at 2:30.
That's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow at 2:30. We actually have an AetherCon panel at 2:30. It's our old time slot. About Ivalice in Final Fantasy XIV, and I fully expect both Meowth and Yumi to go full-on Charlie mode. I'll be very
Unleash
disappointed
them.
if there's not a whiteboard with a lot of red string.
To be fair, we're keeping tomorrow as not speculations that much because we want to focus on Ivalice and just in-game facts and the legacy of Matsuna and all that stuff. So we're not going into full-on Charlie speculation, but be assured that we do have a board like that.
I feel like we all have one whiteboard like that inside of our brain, because we all talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I know that I, for one, have many conspiracy theories about Alexander that I haven't talked to anybody at all about anything whatsoever, and it just lives inside of my brain, and I do imagine it as the Pepe Sylvia meme, pretty accurate.
We should talk, because in my mind, everything connects to Alexander.
You were so right, bestie.
I also
always Alexander.
Yeah.
I also think Alexander is the key, but not sure if Alexander himself. But it could. I'm fairly sure that the raid from Alexander is going to give us the key as to why everything is going to go to hell, basically.
He's staring at the cat she that is present in the time loop,
Yeah!
knowing what
Yeah.
that means in FF11 now.
Yeah.
I've been like, my only free time has been 3 nights a week. I sit down for 2 hours and play this game on a schedule.
And thank you for pronouncing
shit's
Ketchi
crazy.
correctly.
Well, I mean, it makes sense in the context of what they are in 11. In 7, the canon has changed, but that's fine because they
The
handled
canon
it
is
really
wrong.
well. No, I mean, I could go on and on about Rebirth. I have like the bare bones of a script for a video essay on that,
Ooh.
but
I
that is an entirely different game.
I literally bought it when it came out, and I have not touched it. Like
Cobb. Cobb.
I literally just started Baldur's Gate 3.
No. Okay, I mean, I can't follow you for that, I suppose. But Cobb, you just dealt psychic damage to me.
I
Rebirth
know.
is like the game of all time.
I know. I played Remake.
No! Rebirth is like the first quadruple A game, and it plays like it. I need you to go play that one. Christ.
And then
And it's made by the 13 team.
oh really?
It
Go
shows.
play it.
Yeah.
Sent says only one whiteboard. Remember, whiteboards have a front and a back, so one
That's
whiteboard
true.
is technically 2. So yes, I promise I will play it at some point. Hopefully
Not good
before the
enough.
end of this year.
I'm gonna yell at you in 1 month. You have 1 month to start.
Oh god.
I can blackmail I can blackmail with not starting 6 until he starts Rebirth.
Oh, what? No, that's not. No.
Yes! Yes! We are allies in this.
Oh, Kitase added lots of initial Final Fantasy VIII concepts to Rebirth. Okay, I'm interested.
Yes.
I love Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, there's a reason I love Rebirth. I am also an unapologetic 8 enjoyer.
Yes, same. And I will freely say, and this will probably piss a lot of people off, 8 is my favorite PlayStation era Final Fantasy game.
That's valid.
Like, I did not buy a PlayStation for Final Fantasy VII. I bought one for 8.
I respect that more than buying the PlayStation 4 7 because I've never been a 7 enthusiast.
I was mad at 7 when it came out because I was Like, 6 is such a good game. Why are people talking about 6? Everybody's talking about 7. I hate 7. And 7 was.
But
It was
anyways,
jealousy.
Yes, it was very, very much jealousy. But anyway, so we are here today talking about the etymology of weapons in Dawntrail. What's that mean? That means we're going to be talking about what are they named, why are they named that, and what could that potentially mean? So,
because, surprise, the names they choose for each of their artifact gears usually means something that is related, maybe not in the immediate moment of the expansion release, but patches and next expansions.
I had no idea. I thought they just randomly named random. They're like, that sounds cool. Let's use that. No, you're absolutely right. They are very intentional with the naming of things. And not just in Dawntrail. And like there are some names in this that are like, huh, okay, it relates to this. But then if you look back at other expansions, there's a consistency to it, which I think is really interesting. Are they as unpronounceable as the place names? In some cases, yes. Please see Dragoon.
Cowards. Y'all are just cowards. Hi, I'm a Dragoon man.
I mean, we should have you. I mean, for pronouncing some Dragoon names, artifact weapon names and stuff, we should have a Welsh person at least.
I mean, yes. we might have at least one in chat who can pronounce it correctly. So if we butcher these names, we're very sorry in advance. Let's see. So I think Arden is still without power right now. And
I'm not sure if Ayumi is without power as well.
I think Ayumi is in the middle of the storm right now. What's left of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it finished passing through my area late last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it hit where I am on Thursday, but I wasn't here for it. So I came back and everything was fine. So I guess we're doing well. But anyway, so let's get started. And I believe, Meowth, you set them up by role.
Tank, melee DPS, range DPS, and caster DPS and healer.
Okay.
Yes. More or less how it's in game. So.
Saving the best for last.
Indeed, because the Sage one is loaded.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to talk about it. I'm looking at the not unholy file.
No,
The
this
holy
is
file.
not the unholy file. This
Okay.
this one is still in the realm of as acceptable.
Okay, we'll call it.
In the realm of God.
Okay. I was gonna say the blasphemous file, but you know what? We'll go with that. The saintly file. There we go. Because
This
we're
is
starting with
within
paladin.
Yeah, this is within the text. It's fine.
So, we're talking about the tank gear set, starting with paladin, and the sword.
The first, so
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
the first one I put into this is the weapon of the artifact set, and the second one, paladin has two because, well, sword and shield, but it's basically weapon, and then the name of the gear, the clothes. So yeah, that's how you read it.
So yeah,
go.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the Clarent. That is the sword that the paladin uses. Meowth, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Do you want me to read my notes on them?
You can read the notes on it, and then we'll expound a little bit about it, what it could possibly mean, things like that.
So, the Clarent. One of the swords associated with King Arthur alongside Excalibur. In some poems, if you're hearing claws scratching the floor, that's my cats. My cats, they're chasing each other. alongside Excalibur, in some poems mentioned to be a sword of peace only used for ceremonies and rituals such as knighting and crowning, and later stolen and used by Mordred to deliver the fatal blow to Arthur. In another work, Clarent is implied to be the first sword of Arthur that was pulled from the stone and eventually broke, leading to the Lady of the Lake to give him Excalibur. So that's the lore of Clarent.
I did not realize that he had a sword before Excalibur, but I'm not too familiar with deep Arthurian lore. What I do know is that in ARR, Excalibur was the 125 weapon for Paladin, and it's interesting that Clarent was the predecessor to Excalibur, and in 14 it comes after.
Yes, it's quite interesting too. Also, because with Arthurian legend, sometimes it happens that there's different works, different authors, and sometimes it's kind of a bit like, it's not like Greek mythology, but there's a lot of legends and myths in Greek mythology that, depending on the writer, and depending on the time period. I don't know what they're doing, my cats. If you hear workers, it's them. Sorry.
We're not hearing them, don't worry.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, I was actually surprised as well, especially because I wrote this whole thing. I made this dive after Arden was bending my ear about Eureka Orthus, and the final boss. I think it was Excalibur. So I was like, okay, I'm going to. I was like, I went into this in order. In the order you're seeing, this is the order I went lore diving, and the first one, Paladin, boom! I was like, Arden, you're not going to believe this.
It's also fun because this is something where you can look at like the narrative from which the weapon comes from, right? But you can also kind of look at what it means in that context, because it's basically all reliable. And a lot of Dawntrail was going back to her roots, so it makes sense that the weapons also are like, hey, you're still like doing the same old thing. Nothing's changed too much on that front. Yep. It's fun to kind of read in that context as well.
And you're actually absolutely right. And I was looking at some of these names. I was like, I recognize parts of a lot of these names, and a lot of them do tie into the ARR relics. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like I'm eyeing Dragoon specifically. I'm like, oh,
right.
Yes, and I have my suspicions as to why is it, but that's of course speculation, so I can't going to say that. So yeah, but it's quite interesting to me that Clarent is like the first sword. Like for in many myths, I think it's in general popular culture, Excalibur is like the sword of King Arthur. But then you go into this and you realize, oh, but there may be someone maybe. Clarent is actually the one that Arthur pulled from the stone. So we will be leading here with a theme, and this is kind of like a bit of a lesson meta-narrative. We could be dealing here with a theme of something that we took for granted actually being defied. So there's actually a deeper truth to this. You know, that's one of the things that I keep and I noted. It's not in here. I did not make notes in here, but mental note of I see a theme there, basically.
Okay.
The rest of the Paladin stuff, too, in context, they really just went with knight on a horse, kind of, like, traditional idea of what a Paladin should be this time around. I say traditional in the context of, like, Norman-Saxon competition, right?
Yeah.
But, like, when you think about a Paladin riding in, outside the context of like any Final Fantasy game, you're thinking about just a dude in armor, right? It's fun to see them leaning into that symbolically as well.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what? This could actually be kind of a fun game. We could take this in reverse. Do you think that on some level, by naming these sets this way, they were saying that like, oh yeah, Arthur was a paladin by Final Fantasy standards?
Yes, absolutely. Because
coming from WoW, I actually think of paladins with hammers, but I mean,
that
was so many years ago, though.
actively trying to cleanse that from my system. But I'm just thinking about like the next one up. If we're moving on, right? Galahad. That's the most Heavensward ass paladin. If you
Yeah.
think about it in terms of real life.
For me, the only
But-
really big difference between a knight and a paladin is divine blessing, and I feel like paladins.
Someone's played D&D.
Yeah, I feel like paladins stem more from like the Crusades era, where it's like this is a holy war, you know, mandated by God and blessed by God and that kind of thing, and that's kind of where paladins pop out from in my head. But then retroactively applying that to like Arthurian legend and being like, oh yeah, they were totally paladins. So in Japanese, paladin is just knight. So it makes sense to start with that, and then, you know, having that ability to heal and having the divine blessings kind of really feeds into that. But I don't necessarily know if there's a distinction in Japanese between the two. Like between knight and a paladin, or if they're all just considered this is what a knight is, and this is part of it.
It's a very Western European concept, so maybe they don't have that same distinction there. Maybe for them the distinction is just they're just knights in armor.
Yeah, could be.
But anyways,
yeah, you brought up Galahad, the Galahad shield.
The Galahad shield. This is actually very interesting. You can write it that one. The Galahad shield. Sir Galahad was one of the knights of King Arthur's Round Table, renowned for his gallantry and purity. According to legend, Galahad was one of the only two knights to find the Holy Grail, the other being Percival.
You know, it's interesting that, you know, I'm reading Galahad and Percival and Arthur and the Round Table. And of course, a lot of people think immediately Knights of the Round. But lately I've been kind of like, I've been thinking of the Convocation.
Yes, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that you would think that. I mean, in the end, there, 12. So the 12 knights, and then there's the king, and there would be 13, and there would be that's.
And then there's us, Mordred, who kills the king. Which is an interesting reversal.
Yes. I mean, yeah, but Mordred was the son of Lancelot, so it was the son of or Arthur, depending on the myth.
Mm-hmm.
But so in a sense, it was one of them. Of maybe it could have been 14. That's interesting. That's an interesting, really interesting parallel to draw. So yes, and I mean 13, 14 in this case, but 13 is basically the number, the zodiac in evolution lore, because they have a fucus. So that's quite. I mean, that's you could say it's always been there, and this story has always been the story of the Convocation.
They like their recurring numbers, and like that 12, 13, 14 set, there's so many real world mythos and folklore that you can tie to it, but it also just works really well in game to keep putting things in sets.
Yeah. It makes it very thematically consistent.
Yeah.
And especially because, 12 had a lot of elements of 12 in it. 13 had a lot of elements of 13. 14 has 14 shards, 14
except Lightning Returns, which it hammers you the entire game with, no, it's the final 13 days, and then, psych, it's actually 14!
Yeah. And then, Shadowbringers was just literally Lightning Returns.
Yes. Correct. But yes, the interesting thing here to me of the Galahad Shield is, one, the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Self-explanatory. And then that actually were only two knights
I think we should explain
the Grail.
I think we should explain it, because I know the Holy Grail, one of the things that some people have been calling the key is, the Grail of Azem.
Okay,
or
right.
the Grail.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, not everyone is so acquainted with iconography, I suppose. So, the key in Dawn Trail by the cap vessel with the oversight inside. That's the whole thing. The moment I actually first saw that thing in launch trailer, I lost it because I was like, that's a fucking grail. That's the Holy Grail, because the Holy Grail in I mean, technically speaking, it's the cup from which Jesus drank during
Last Supper.
the Last Supper. Yes, that's how you say it.
Mhm.
Okay. It's supposed to be the vessel of, metaphorically, supposed to be the vessel of Jesus's blood. The thing about the Grail, I mean, if we go into Gnostic beliefs and stuff, it takes different meaning. Like I could just summarize as the Grail as a vessel, as a cup, as a chalice, is actually one of the oldest symbols for the female womb. So in Gnosticism, the Holy Grail is not actually a cup, like a physical cup. It metaphorically refers to Jesus' bloodline as born by Mary Magdalene. And it's basically the descendants of Jesus. So it's quite interesting because they've used this interpretation in Final Fantasy 13. So that's actually interesting. So yes.
Why am I not surprised?
You were there with me when you played it, and I explained the whole thing. It's in our channel. It's in your playthrough. I spent almost half an hour before the final boss explaining shit to you. So
I was tired.
So that's. No, you were not tired. You were actively invested in it. That's. but anyways, so that's one. I mean, if I'm not going to go into the whole thing right now, but basically the Grail is a cup, like a chalice, and that's ever since ever since I first saw that thing in the launch trailer, I have been calling the key for many people. I've been calling the Grail, and I think I rubbed it off to the rest of the server. So yes, and so that's your TED talk on the Holy Grail. Thank you for. I mean, you're welcome. And the second part of this that's interesting to me is that it's the point that only two knights have been in Arthurian legend known for finding the Holy Grail. One was Galahad and the other was Percival. It's the fact that it's two people that actually found this thing, and knowing certain stuff and how it was set up, I mean, I was like, subtle. I mean, not subtle, really. It's this.
No, Square Enix's version of subtlety.
If just for subtlety, like this.
Yes,
I
with a
do
hammer.
I do have to bring that emote at this point to the server. So, anyways, opinions.
Yeah, so Ficor says, I feel like as we talk about Paladin, we got to talk about the Paladin job quest, and that's a story. Like, I remember the early Paladin job quests, and that's... yeah, that's a story. It's kind of like, what is the point of this?
Not the most engaging one. I didn't help.
I liked it.
I mean, I don't say it's bad, it's just that for me it was not engaging.
I mean, ARR in Heavensward was just kind of like, okay, we learn about the Sultan Sworn, and then in Heavensward, we're all going to fight until the Jobstone picks someone. That's pretty much it. And we win.
That in and of itself was so fascinating to me, though, because none of the rest of the job quests really deal with, like, the emotional weight of having that. and kind of like the ways that you kind of get tied to a job stone.
Mhm.
This is like completely digressing from the point, but
No,
I,
no.
I think there's a lot more lore in early job quests than people kind of. Oftentimes, everything in ARR gets kind of taken for granted when it really just continues to be the most interesting, like, set of, like, hey, here's a thing that we're not going to talk about, and it keeps me up at night. Like, it happens with ARR more than anything else. Like, a lot of other stuff, it's like, oh, this is really cool. And then I go to sleep, and then the ARR stuff is like, but why? Why did you do it this way?
Mhm.
Just a comment. Speaking of early AR job quest, I recently, with an out, replayed the Thaumaturge job quest, and I was like, oh my fucking god, this in this context right now is just
Yeah.
blurry eyes. I was like, wow.
It's fun going back, like, with the 12 and the elementals and stuff. And we should get back to the point. We've gone through Paladin, and we've been here 30 minutes. We're not going to make it through the rest if we don't.
Well, some of them are kind of short, but I do want to
yeah.
address the Paladin job quest and what you brought up about it, which I like that the Paladin job quest emphasizes how rare job stones are. Where
Right.
it's not that there's a lot of them, and if you think about it, job stones are really kind of a modern incarnation of convocation crystals. Because they kind of perform the same function, where they imbue you with the memories and skills of, you know, the job holder that came before.
Yeah, and it's, since we're diving into this, I made a joke about being a Dragoon main earlier, but, like, the Dragoon kind of job story is so much more personal than just you meet a stranger for it, right? Because it's this long, very specific line of people who have basically been cycling through the same 2 or 3 job stones to have this job. It's also one of the only instances we have of someone with a job stone hanging up the mantle. Because Albrecht, like, he was the Azure Dragoon. He extricated himself from that and is now just a Lancer again.
Yep.
Which, it was just kind of in the moment, a retirement thing. But it does mean something more when you think about the fact that the job stone is central to your ability to use some of these skills. And especially given that so much of the Dragoon story does heavily and revolve around Estinian, who kind of has a feral soul, if we're going to go by Dawn Trail etymology, right? Just based on merging with Nidhogg. There's a lot of, like, I don't know, strings are coming together. I'm just pointing y'all in a direction. I don't have any cases here. I'm just pointing out that it's like, hey, these are retroactive explanations for things, and it's absolutely fascinating. Do I know where they're going with it? Nope, but it's there. We have new words to explain things that we know. And that kind of like not to talk about the Dragoon weapon etymology, but you pointed out that Dragoon especially also has, like, direct references to previous gear sets in ARR, instead of just kind of a continuation of it. Dragoon very much, like, as a concept, folds back in on itself, both, like, with naming conventions, but also narratively, and just the way that those quests can continue to play out.
Yep, I agree.
I love Dragoon.
The Dragoon job quests have been consistently solid. So, and then there's the Blue Mage job stones, which are mass produced in a factory and sold.
It's Martin. Martin is the best job trainer.
We'll talk about Blue Mage when we get to do the FF11 thing, because Martin is lying to all of us, and it's becoming funnier and funnier to believe that he doesn't know that he's doing it.
I love it. I absolutely love it, because he's a con man who kind of understands things, but he knows just enough to be dangerous.
Right.
He doesn't actually understand the implications of it.
The TLDR is that Blue Mages don't need a job stone because they're borrowing the soul abilities from other people. But we can't get into this right now, or I will not. We would be here all day.
So the final part of Paladin, the Caballerius, Latin word for horseman or rider, which is very reminiscent of caballero.
Caballero.
Yeah. So, gentleman, or as I like to also translate it, cowboy. Um,
I mean, yes.
yeah, it's kind of the same. Um,
Like the fancy
But-
word,
it-
word for vaquero.
yeah, vaquero. So it'd be horseboy, but when you think about caballero, you think about a person on horseback, which, not a big leap. So that I think,
that one is fairly straightforward.
yeah, there's not a lot to talk about with that one.
You think about the cowboy and you smile thinking of the Dawn Trail American freedom land connotations, but that's it, I suppose.
Okay, so that about wraps it up for Paladin. So we'll move on to Warrior now. We'll talk about the Warrior main hand. Yep.
Yes, it's. I was going to make the Unga Bunga joke, but
I mean, yes. So Warrior is just basically Berserker.
yeah. But I do love something about Warrior, and we commented on this when they released, when we were commenting on the launch on the Job Actions trailer. And one thing I do love about Warrior is that they keep adding more aspected elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because element of Earth tends to be usually so forgotten in Final Fantasy titles. I love that they actually pay attention to it.
I mean, if you look at the Warrior LB3 since ARR, it's just been a wall of rock. So it makes sense.
So the main hand of the Warrior, the axe, is called Ferocity, which is basically fierceness, fury, wildness. It makes sense. I do have some opinions on why this particular choice, but then again, because ferocity is not exactly the same as anger. It's more like the feral wildness. It can be applied to animals, and makes me think a bit of beast souls, and maybe they could be the it's like, maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a native English speaker, so maybe I'm not picking up the nuance there. But
it's more just intensity of emotion, which does kind of go into the Unga Bunga joke. It's like, yeah, you are ferocious in combat. You're gonna go get it. Like, you're not just kind of sitting back. You are an active participant kind of situation. And a lot of Warriors' like new abilities are enhancements or continuations of what they had in Endwalker. So it is very much intensifying what's already there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The most important part, or most interesting part to me of Warrior, is not the weapon this time, but the name of the gear. Which, I'm going to fuck this Greek word anyway, but agogi, maybe.
Agoge.
Agogi, I don't know. It's
no
Greek, so
we're here to butcher names. So
so Ellie in chat is possibly going to murder me, but yeah, I tried. You give me the star. So this word is actually the training program prerequisite for attaining citizen status in Sparta, involving cultivating loyalty to Sparta through military training, hunting, dancing, singing, and rhetoric, and delivered to the pride boys of food, sleep, and shelter, and ritual beatings seem to have been part of it in order to build pain tolerance, and they were restricted from contact with their families or wives. It's the mention to Sparta, and so the mention to Sparta is already interesting, considering we know what Greek means in 14.
mm-hmm.
But to me, it's interesting that there were two main purposes for this training program. It was one, to cultivating loyalty to Sparta, and the second was to build pain tolerance. And for some reason, not exactly some reason, it kind of, the way I see it, and I may be wrong, this could be just my interpretation, the previous expansion, say, lesson of life is suffering, deal with it, it brings me the concept of building pain tolerances to accept it as part of your life, which I must say I don't consider that being healthy.
I mean, it's also a very Buddhist way of looking at life, because the whole theme of, to exist is to suffer. But I find it very interesting that there's a link to Sparta, because when I think about Sparta, I think about very regimented, very disciplined warriors. Meanwhile, warrior in this game is like, harness your inner beast and just swing your axe. Just break things. That's kind of my impression of warrior in this game. So it's very undisciplined, very ferocious. Yeah, very unga bunga.
It's so funny that that's like the general consensus of the class in game, because I do so much raiding, and warriors are usually like the most quiet, studied up players. Like
absolutely.
People who like do savage ultimate content, the warrior is like the quiet person who shows up and really just gives it their all.
Mm-hmm.
And they also seem to know everything about the fight at any given point in time.
Yeah.
It's a fun contradiction. I think it reflects on the player.
The warriors I know that raid are the type of people who are like, hey, I have this new thing. I want to try to improve my rotation by 0.01%.
Yes, you're exactly right. It's like, I want to optimize my healing so that the healers don't have to do as much during this X mechanic. And then like the in-game perception of warrior is teehee hit button, which is correct. It does have the simplest rotation, but it's fun to kind of reflect the Sparta aspect on the people who play warrior at that level, because it does take that amount of effort,
Yeah, it absolutely does. And
meanwhile, Paladin come and see go burr
and God help you if you get them talking about their rotation and optimization, because you will be there for an hour. But no, they're excellent players. So, yeah.
So yes, that's basically warrior. Then,
yep.
Yeah, I gave you my interpretation. So,
right. So let's
you
talk
can
about...
either agree or not.
Let's talk about Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
I'm excited.
Dark Knight. Okay.
One.
Yes.
This is. It seems short, what I picked up, but it's more like the implications that I was like. So the main arm of Dark Knight is called Maleficus. Is the Latin word for wrongdoer, criminal, but it's also used for magician, enchanter, and or sorcerer, which is quite interesting choice, as they are kind of physical, big as swords wielders. But we do know who was, as so far, the first Dark Knight we have met, chronologically speaking, in this game. So that's quite interesting.
I do think it's interesting, because you think about Dark Knight and you think about how it's a very contrarian class lore-wise, where it's harnessing the darkness in a time of the game where, we are the warrior of light, and it's very much going against the grain. It always has. It's saying, justice is not something that's delivered by the system. We have to deliver justice ourselves and take it into our own hands. And so I could definitely see how it could tie into something like Maleficus, or, wrongdoer, with that root word of mal, which just means bad. So I think it's very interesting that they're kind of going into that. And then with the other one, fallen, which is an adjective used for something fallen from grace, like fallen hero, fallen angel. You think about that tying in with Maleficus, and thinking about, okay, Dark Knights are, they're bad people. Like, I would think of chaotic good when I think of Dark Knights, who are like, yes, I will burn down this city, but I did it because there was evil here and I had to root it out. And people got
Dark Knight also got my favorite level 100 ability, Disesteem. It's a continuation of Esteem, which I think most people just associate with, it's the button that summons Frey, right? But it's like you're a manifestation of a shadow of yourself, right? Disesteem can only be pushed when you've summoned a steam. It is a shadowy wing that slices upward in a point range attack against your enemies. I just wanted to put it in there since we were talking about fallen angels, because it is a single wing that only manifests when you let out the darkest part of yourself. Draw the conclusions that you will.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Not loaded
Dun
at all.
dun 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 dun
Yep,
dun
yep.
dun dun.
Yeah.
And we'll just
So-
leave that there.
Some of that alien Ultima influence.
Yeah. I also just love the idea of like the single wing iconography because it's the same thing that they use in 7, right? You are not
Spoilers.
quite-
Spoilers alert! Spoiler alert! Final Fantasy 16 Ultima has in Ultima Prime form a single wing, black wing. So
Yeah, he's got plenty wings, but it is one of those things where it's something that is not quite holy. The fact that it's just one, it's fallen from grace, right? It's not quite there. It's the same symbology that like they use for the soldiers in 7, because that's kind of what they are, right? They're not quite there, but they're not quite human either. So it's that in between status. So it's in between morally for Dark Knights, which is in line with the job, but it also fits a little bit with the the things that they typically set up alongside the gear sets.
it's if you go search the lore for dark real life Dark Knights or Black Knights, you will find a legend about the first proper Black Knight or Dark Knight, which, properly speaking, is not even a knight who went rogue. It's basically a knight who achieved, I mean, summarizing the legend, achieved true neutrality between good and evil. So he couldn't be judged either by heaven or hell. So it appeared an entity who embodied actually that perfect neutrality, and basically told the Dark Knight, this man, that he would be the judge. He would be the judge of his own soul, and every good deed that he did would have a bad deed by some other people, and every bad deed he did would be balanced by some other people doing a good deed. So it didn't really matter. So in the end, he would be the judge of his own soul, not superior powers. That's really interesting. In
Fascinating. That reminds me a lot of Elidibus and the White Robes.
Yes. Yeah, it's the idea of existing in between. So it's I'm having an epiphany right now that the final abilities kind of correlate to the artifact sets. So I'm just kind of going through as we click through this, like also clicking through the jobs and going through all of the abilities.
Another episode will be skill names.
I'll stop bringing it up then. I just, for Dark Knight specifically, I had to talk about Disesteem because it's genuinely just my favorite ability that we got at 100.
So, moving on to Gunbreaker. Meowth. I'm going to make you pronounce this because I don't know how to.
You don't know how to pronounce French.
No, I'm going to say Chastiafoil. Chastiafoil?
It should be more or less like Le Chastifol. Le Chastifol. In the medieval French story, Le Chevalier Popego, King Arthur's sword. I'm not French either, so King Arthur's sword. King Arthur's sword Excalibur is renamed as Chastifol. In Old French, it means to punish the fools and or fool punisher. So it's another version of Excalibur, but French.
Interesting.
It's Baguette Excalibur.
That's very interesting because I never really associated French aesthetic with Gunbreaker. I associated it more with Red Mage. So it's very interesting that they went with that.
It's interesting because Red Mage is actually, in this game, it's not actually in 14, has been consistently Red Mage much more European Spanish than French, and I really like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like, fuck's sake, we basically got almost a torero, bolero in Endwalker and
they're basically
and Dawn Trail.
They're basically toreadors, yeah. No, I could see that. Okay.
And the gears and the gear set for Gunbreaker, which by the way, these expansions Artifact Gear for Gunbreaker rocks the style. It's called Bastion. It's a projecting part of a fortification built at an angle to the line. So I suppose everyone knows what's a bastion, but I still wrote it down as to pick up the proper nuances, because when we think of bastion, surely we think of a castle, but it's actually more specific than that. It's like the projecting part of a fortification built at an angle to the line of the wall as to allow defensive fire in several directions. Or alternatively, something that keeps or defends a belief or a way of life that is disappearing or threatened.
See, I like that, because when I think of bastion, I think of a concept, not an actual fortification. It's more of the idea of a fortification or a fortress. But when you say bastion, and actually put the definition in there, I immediately think of St. Augustine, which is a Spanish fortress that's here. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Meowth, but it has lots of different angles.
No, that
I'll send it to you. It's basically shaped like a star, like a 4-pointed star.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
4-point star. Okay. So the most important, thematically speaking, to Gunbreaker, what I thought most important is that the line about allowing defensive fire, which is basically what Gunbreakers do. So I was like, oh, this is actually ties well with Gunbreaker. It's interesting too. That's kind of like the in the metaphorical sense of bastion, as to the defending a belief or a way of life. You can take it like in Dawntrail so far. You can either take it depending on which way Dawntrail goes. But it's interesting that it's specifically about a way of life or belief that's disappearing or threatened. Because to me, if you ask me personally, I could say it reminds me of, well, the Ascians in particular, as they are basically very few left. So that's quite interesting to me.
Well, yes and no. Well, well, that's another topic.
That's another topic.
Now that they've opened that door again. Anyway.
So much of Dawntrail is also like learning about beliefs in order to protect them, but you can also because Gunbreaker's main tie-in is also with Boja.
Yeah.
Because of that, so much of the job's identity is like the direct protection of another in a way that the rest of the tanks are. Because we were talking about Paladin protecting ideology, right? Dark Knight standing up for the general gray area. You got to do bad to do some good sometimes. Gunbreaker is much more personal in that level, I think is the right word that I want to use there. So
yeah, they're basically bodyguards. That's
right.
Yeah. And another crucial part of Gunbreaker is the use of bastion and defensive fire, because in Dawntrail context, it remind me so much of Alexander, what Alexander is. It is a fortress that fires the defensive fire, or, well, it could be attacking fire, depends on how you say it, but it's a fortress. Basically, main way of attacking is firing big old lasers.
He is a bastion.
Yeah.
A Seeker's Arms is now reminded of Monty Python when the French blow their noses at Arthur's chest.
Oh my god.
I'm dead.
We need is this a plot hole butterfly meme? You know the one I'm talking about? Just, is this a bastion?
Yes.
With an image of that. Can someone make that?
Oh my god.
It was already howling when they actually quoted Monty Python and the Holy Grail in Dawntrail with Otis yelling "Tis but a scratch," and I don't know if it's a flesh wound or whatever. I was like, no way they put Monty Python in here.
Literally everything about Otis was great. Everything.
And then I
Otis.
And then I realized, oh, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yep.
That's what Sneaky Square is.
I love it. I love it.
But yes. Monty Python, what geniuses.
So we've spent about an hour talking about tanks. We still have the
Yeah,
melee
we have to-
DPS, the range DPS,
Yeah, we have to.
the
I was like,
healers.
we're not getting through this today.
No, we're not. And you know what? That's
We're-
okay.
We're going to try anyway.
So we can at least try and get through the melee DPS.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of melee DPS. Oh my god. All right. So
There's
next
a
up,
lot, actually. Yeah.
next is Dragoon.
Yes.
Yes.
Dragoon.
So
So this one is actually quite loaded too in terms of themes. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but I'm going to try. The lance is called the Geasa, and that's the Spear of Sal, also known as the Lightning Spear or Luke's Spear, was one of the 4 treasures of the Tuatha De Danann in Irish mythology. I probably screwed up the Welsh there, but the sun god Luke famously wielded the spear, said to never miss its mark and always return to his hand. It's basically, this spear is actually kind of, when I didn't note this, didn't write this down, but it's kind of like it was kind of like either this god was the predecessor to Thor, or Thor was the predecessor to this god. We don't really know, but it's the thing about returning a lightning weapon that returns to the god's hand. It's basically Mjolnir from the hammer of Thor, basically.
They are unrelated.
Okay.
Hi, local Dragoon and also Scandinavian, born and raised on the original
Good.
folklore of Vikings. I do want to point out the name of the weapon is actually also a pun, because assail also means sudden attack with great ferocity. Ferocity? Jesus.
Ferocity?
Yeah,
I like these new
ferocity.
words we're
Yeah.
making up.
Yeah, ferocity and philosophy. It's ferocity, guys. We're gonna make it happen.
That's why I didn't write down the thing about I didn't write the thing about connecting the 2 gods, because I was like,
Yeah,
I don't really think I'm not really sure about
they are
this. So.
they are their own thing. But it is fun to draw the parallel connection, right? Because there is so much about civilization that kind of develops parallel to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people talk about how the wheel was invented at pretty much the exact same time around the world, because that's just kind of where humanity was, right? Spear always returning to hand is a great way to kind of emphasize what the Dragoon is about, for all of the reasons that we list previously. But also the idea of a sudden attack is also very much in line with what a Dragoon is, because they dive, and most of the time you don't see them coming, or at least you're not supposed to.
They dive and things die.
Yes, that's how it goes. It's sudden death screaming from the sky.
Yep. And I actually had to look it up. It's Guy, not A.
Yes.
Guy.
Still they made the pun when they with the Zodiac weapon, the basic with the gay bulk, and the achievement is literally having a gay old time.
So many puns.
And then and then
I mean, technically speaking, I'm not an expert in English to that level, but because I've seen the Australians using gay as in joyous, cheery, carefree context. I suppose that's the original.
meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yep.
Because I've seen people from Australia using the word and causing confusion to other people. So it's like, okay, it's fine.
So it's not improper English to say I'm feeling gay. That just means I'm feeling
gay.
gay.
Every sense of the word. Dragoon, emotionally and sexually attraction. It's a triple pun, baby. Gay Dragoon.
Gaius, we already got one. Oh yes, it's very nice.
Your name is Gaius.
Very nice.
So that's for the spear. I mean, it's quite interesting. First, the lightning spear. lightning, Dawntrail,
Mhm.
Yep.
background here right now. And it was wielded by the sun god Luke. So that's
Yep.
like, wow, that's a nice combo there.
And
and
then-
then the gear is basically heaven's bound. It's basically headed for heaven or on its way to heaven.
Yeah.
It would be normally I would say it doesn't mean much. It's just like literal
It's the
meaning.
original title for
But-
Heavensward.
True. and but it also makes me think of if we take this, we could also be thinking of Ultima there, heavens bound, going to heaven, headed for heaven. It's like,
Or, or I wouldn't even say heavens bound. It could also be interpreted as bound to the heavens, like it's
That
stuck
too.
there.
It's
mean-
also a way to say that you are flying.
Yeah.
Like in the use of the word, again alluding to the diving
jump,
of
yeah.
dragoons.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can. Okay.
Give me an ability where, like, in PvP, when Dragoon jumps, they're like actually in the air for a little bit. I would love to do that in a raid. Just once. Let me have this. Let me
Oh my
pull
God.
a Stydian.
I still remember Type 0 using the jump ability, and it's just kind of like, all right, I'm jumping. Put the controller down. Wait 5 seconds. All right, there he is.
Yeah. I want that. Give me that ability. Or at least, like, let me do what a Stydian does and summon, like, different versions of himself to, like, do that as just a visual. Let me do this, please.
He's a special
Square
dragoon.
Enix.
He's special.
I know, but I want to do that. I want to do that. I can't be a Stydian.
But you're both Azure Dragoons. Anyway, moving on.
Onto monk. So I'm going to screw up the pronunciation for both of these. The weapon, the main hand or the two hands, is called how the fuck do you pronounce it? Suayas, whatever. It's another term for Indian cutters, a type of handheld dagger intended for punching and slashing attacks. I'm going to ask you something or share a curiosity with you, Ineas, here, because as I was searching the name on Google, actually it directed me to Final Fantasy XI, because apparently there is one monk artifact that's actually called the same. So,
They've yeah, so here's the fun thing, and I promise we won't spend too much time on this. A lot of like artifact gear in 14 is taken from gear sets in 11, because 11 did have like artifact gear sets, but like the level didn't matter nearly as much as the stats on stuff. So a lot of best in slot for current endgame content is still like a level 54 dagger. Despite the level cap being 99. So you would see something that came out in, like, Abyssia 10 years ago still get used to this day, despite the new gear coming out.
Yeah,
new
but
design.
how long does it take to get that gear? That's the thing in
A
11.
while, right? Yeah, that's also like they didn't make gear redundant the same way that new expansions do in 14, but gear also matters less in 14 than it did in 11. All this to say, I like that they're getting a chance to do these things again. There is a good example of this. There's a dagger in 11 called the Aeneas that ended up getting reused for the Shadowbringers Red Mage artifact gear as well. So it was a reference to the actual like story of Aeneas, but also, they like using these names again and again.
so for the monk, the interesting part to me is the gear here, which is the Hesychast, whatever Hesychast I'm going to for Hesychast gear set. And Hesychasm is a contemplative monastic tradition in the Eastern Christian traditions, so basically Orthodox, in which stillness, Hesychia, is sought through uninterrupted Jesus prayer, which is the prayer that goes, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. What's interesting to me is the mention, and I copied this as
What?
Meowth.
Meowth died.
Meowth. Oh god, she's gone robotic.
Oh
Meowth.
no.
Meowth.
Meowth. So I will say I've never heard this word, but I'm not a monk and I'm not versed in Eastern Christian traditions. But I think it's really interesting that monks have this combination of the Eastern fighting style, and then at the same time the contemplative
It kept
monk.
going. It kept bringing me to
Oh, there we
it's basically
You're
it's
back.
basically oh, I'm back. I was
You were
gone?
gone.
Yeah, you disappeared.
Fuck.
You quoted the Jesus prayer and then you cut out.
Okay, so I quoted the just. Okay, I was gone for a long while. So again, what I was going to say is that what intrigued me most about monk or this particular thing, it was the mention, and I copied it like as it was in the description, stillness, because it was like, this is kind of the same as stasis. I was like, light, stasis, stillness. I was like, interesting. Write it down.
I like it. It's very much in line with the whole idea of meditating to build power. Like I think they actually have an ability called meditation where you just build
Yes.
your chakras up.
That is how they do the samurai stuff, but monk does have something similar.
I just think it's.
I was also intrigued by the fact that this time around, usually monk is based around Buddhist, Indian, some Zen traditions from Eastern. That basically their thematic is mostly Eastern. But this time, even though it's still Eastern Christian, with the Turkey, Russia, Orthodox Church, basically Slavic as well, it's quite interesting to me. Greek. Eastern Orthodox also is Greek, so that's interesting too. But they this time around they actually gone for a more Christian monk practice. So it's like, this is kind of like a change of paradigm there. But yeah,
Much like we just talked about a lot of the gear sets being references to previous FF games and previous sets. I think it's fun that they can continue introducing new things as well, because in drawing from multiple religions for Monk, they managed to keep it entirely aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's nice that they're drawing on like the stillness of it, right? The idea of quiet contemplation and then removing it from any religious practice so that it can appeal to everybody as well.
No, I agree.
yeah.
I think that by focusing on the act, which is not something that's unique to one religion, and kind of tying it to various religions throughout the world,
right?
It very much it makes it very neutral, which I think is pretty cool.
You also have to. You also have to bear in mind that for the Japanese, and this is a Japanese game, Christianism is not treating adding Christianism elements to their games is not regarded as like too dangerous, too risky, or any sort of taboo, because it's not their main religion. They treat Christianism as the way we treat other mythologies around the world. That's why, in my opinion, they make the best dives into the deeper, darker parts of the myth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it encourages stuff like what we're doing, right? Where we're learning about these things from religions that are different than ours as well. So I think it's just fun to learn about, and I like that it gets introduced in a way that encourages that.
If you realize in Japanese video game sphere, the one that they don't really like to, some games they do, but they are very much more careful about especially Shinto. They don't really like to them it's their own, like, it's our religion. Let's not go too much into this.
Kind of. If you look at Gridania and Gridania lore, there's a lot of Shinto in that.
Yes. I meant as in they tend to be more not so obvious, if it makes sense. But anyways, let's keep going.
Yes.
Let's at least get through the melee DPS.
All right.
Yes,
Samurai.
we still have some time. Let's, depending on how fast we go through this.
We have like 20 minutes. All right, Samurai.
Samurai. I'm going to screw up. The Kogara Sumaru is the main arm, is the katana, and I read. The Kogara Sumaru, or Little Crow Circle, is a unique Japanese tachi sword believed to have been created by the legendary Japanese smith Amakuni during the 8th century AD. AD is, well, I suppose it always confuses me. I suppose it's after Christ. Anyways, the Kogara, no, or no, I don't know. The Kogara Sumaru is unique as a bridge between the old double-edged Japanese ken based on China's jian and the traditional Japanese tachi and eventual katana. So, I mean, it's a legendary sword actually. That it's, I think it's considered one of the treasures of Japan. They do have this thing exposed, I think, in exposition. I don't know where exactly. But the most interesting part when I was reading about this thing is the thing that it's actually, it works as a metaphorical bridge between the old another form, a previous form of the weapon, and then the more traditional new one. Because especially after Yoshipi mentioned that bridges and arcs will be important in the context of Dawn Trail, the thing that it works as a metaphorical bridge is the thing that actually made me think this is like a bridge between the old way and the new way, if it makes sense.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, it's also again, the bridge of culture, right? Because that is how this type of blade was originally forged. So, lots of themes folding back on each other.
And the gear is named Sakonji. The word would mean something like at the left side, close to the next one, or going to the left. Which it was the most literal translation. But actually, I was kind of, when I was musing about the meaning, was like going to the left. Well, that's actually going west. So that's what that's exactly what we did in this.
That makes way more sense. I was like, why are we talking about the left hand? Are we implying that the next story arc is the Warrior of Light becoming left-handed? No, going to the west makes way more sense.
But there's, you could also take a deeper reading if we're going by, I mean, my theory that we're going backwards towards a Realm Reborn. Going to the left in our way of reading would be going backwards in narrative. So
returning to roots, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then aside from all of this, it was also the name of a 14th century-ish, more or less, notorious clan farmers. I noted this one because I was amused just at the detail. It was 14th century. I was like,
I'm sure that was intentional.
But yes, so yeah, I'm actually amused when I was like reading the because reading the samurai and ninjas, especially concepts, like trying to, it's like please be a known concept, because they're usually as they're not translated, it's like trying to find the proper meaning of this is going to be hell. And thankfully, that's one of the few things Reddit's useful for, where people usually try to translate these things. But this one, I agree with Anea. So I was like, at the left side, going to the left. What the fuck are they? Oh, going west.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Oh.
I was having that moment in real time. That was gonna bug me until I had that revelation, so I appreciate you just pointing it out and saving me the stripe.
I mean, I put it in here just as it was plain translated. Then I added but this actually makes more sense in context.
Yeah, someone in chat pointed out Journey to the West. Yeah, it's, I mean, Cowboy Samurai was kind of probably the experience if you played through MSQ on that job.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Hell, a lot of Westerns were based on old samurai films as well, back in the black and white era.
Oh, Seven Samurai, absolutely. And
Yeah, the two share a lot more roots than I think a lot of Westerners tend to realize.
If you watch an Akira Kurosawa movie and then Good and Bad and the Ugly and that trilogy, like it's almost the same. Same camera angles, same everything. Very
So for
sensually yummy.
Reaper, let's go on Reaper. Reaper's main arm is Vendetta, which is revenge, vengeance, but usually Vendetta is often associated with personal feuds. It's like a personal vendetta,
Which
so
makes
it's-
sense
it's-
in the context of Reaper being, it's the Garlean vendetta against the people who stole their lands.
Yeah, that specific word is used in the job quests, if I recall correctly.
And then the assassin, it's basically a hired killer or belonging to the order of the assassins. The word assassin in Arabic means principal, with which we had Neela here for the proper Arabic context, but means principal. The assassins were also users of drugs and allegedly resorted to hashish in stupefying candidates for the ephemeral visit to paradise, and they believed in valuing their principles above their own lives. And I notated the thing about the drugs because, like, ephemeral visit to paradise. I was like, sus. What do you? I mean, opinions.
I think this one is pretty at face value at this point in time, mostly because they are very straightforward concepts. It's in line with the job.
Agreed. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of hidden context here. It's just, this is what it is.
The gear looks cool as hell, though.
Yeah, it does.
It does. As for ninja, the main daggers are the Shiranui. Shiranui basically translates to unknown fire. Shiranui in historic Kana orthography is an atmospheric ghost light told about in Kyushu. First one of the two frames, Karoyabi, parent fire will appear, that these will split off to the left and right and multiply, eventually producing anywhere from 700 to several thousand flames in a row. They are said to span 4 to 8 kilometers. It's believed that the greatest number of Shiranui can be seen at the lowest tide within 2 hours of 3 a.m., and they were formerly believed to be the lamps of the dragon god. That's the last part is quite interesting to me. The lamps of the dragon god. So, Also, I noted the whole process because apparently these things split. So I was like, then we go again with the theme of one thing splitting, then we go again with the theme of duality. So I'm going to write this down.
There's so much mythical property surrounding ninjas compared to what they actually were, which is fascinating to me. How they were very much romanticized and mythologized, not just in Japan but kind of around the world. It's like it reminds me of Superman when Superman was introduced. He just had super strength, and now he's more powerful than God. Just as time goes, like, stories get told and embellished over time, and then they just achieve these kind of mythical proportions that they didn't really actually have.
So as for the gear set, this is the one I actually don't know what exactly it means, because Momochi means 100, so Momochi means 100 lands. It's a homonym for Momo, pink. The kanji for pink in Japanese is based on the word for peaches. I have no idea what it actually means. The only thing I can think related to pink is that it's the color of the crystal, the convocation crystal for Ultima. That's the only thing at the back of my mind. So why it's used for pink here? The gear's not pink either. So I'm like, okay,
I think probably they most likely saw their opportunity for a joke. As the team often does, because 100 lands, this was the expansion where they reached level 100. That is a huge milestone for an MMO.
That's also fair.
We're past the FF11 level cap now, because they stopped at 99, like FF games traditionally do. So this is probably a celebration of that Centurion landmark.
And we know that Japan loves their puns, so...
Yes.
That's fair.
Maybe
So-
they'll introduce down the line that ninja just really love eating peaches, and that will be the reference.
I love
Just
it.
for the sake of like retroactively being, hey, we wanted to celebrate this milestone. We
I
gotta
love
like it somehow. So if you want to participate in the pun, dye your ninja gear pink.
I love it. Yeah. Peach blossoms everywhere.
So for Viper, this one is quite interesting. The main weapon is the Sarkatanas. Sarkatanas is a brigadier major and the general of the Infernal Spirits with no legion of his own. He does have command over the demons Faray, Lore, and Valefor. He is under the command of Astaroth. This demon is summoned for his brainwashing abilities, mind reading, and memory erasing and stealing. But he can also give the gift of invisibility and the skill of lovemaking. He can also open locks and transport people to distant places. His portrait resembles a moth or other flying insect. Okay, go on.
So, Sargatanas, actually, there's a server named Sargatanas. But it's a twin blade. First appeared in Final Fantasy IX. But also, it is one of Null's weapons in 13.2. Also a twin blade. So it's interesting that it's popped up a few times before, but just as a weapon. So I find it very interesting that they have, taken this weapon and applied so much importance to it, and giving it a server. Because aside from Excalibur, I'm not sure there are too many other servers that are named after weapons. Unless you count Ultima.
Not that I... Balmung, maybe?
Yeah, Balmung, I guess. I don't know. I guess there's precedent for it. Anyway.
The theme's there.
Yeah. There's a lot you could dive into there.
Yes. Like, mind reading, memory erasing, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And open locks, a key, and transport people to distant places. And it's like, okay. And then
we started talking about 9 AC.
And then resembles a moth, and I'm like, hello, Athena.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah.
They really took the poster job for Dawn Trail and gave it some very pointed symbology.
Mm-hmm. This is a viper. It's a snake, which I kind of had that impression for Reaper initially. So I'm glad they kind of are differentiating those two classes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Viper is one that I have not gotten a chance to play yet, just because of the way I had to level things for raid purposes and my schedule. But I will have significantly more insight to the job once I get through it.
Think about the chaos of Dancer, but on a melee class. It's great.
See, I like that because I specialize in skill speed melee. Is how I like to raid. So yeah. I very purposefully, I did this in Endwalker, which was my first expansion, and I'm doing this for Dawn Trail, and I think this is just how I'm going to keep playing the game.
Yeah.
I'm going to save the new jobs for last.
Yep.
Unless something comes out where I'm like, oh, I absolutely have to be playing this in a raid in 3 weeks.
Which is for the sake of the job quest lore alone, do play Viper and Pictomancer. Pictomancer is going to blow your mind.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna level everything, right? I'm full multi-classer, but I have certain priorities when I'm doing, like, week 1 clears and I sub for a lot of different groups. There's certain jobs I just have to have geared and at 100 within the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But for Viper, like, I usually break my combos into, like, different sets on my bar. So I'll have like 1, 2, 3 is 1, and then 3, 4, 5. But Viper, I can't do that because everything kind of feeds into everything else, and there's different paths you can take, but it's like the same attacks.
It's circular. Okay.
Yeah.
I look forward to breaking it down. I always find that when I am doing something, I learn more about it.
Esselif says, I'm here to throw a nays off track by mentioning the screenshot reveal on trailer.
No.
We talked about that before stream.
I tried so hard not to talk about it. Please, we're almost through the episode. I almost made it.
You
Crow.
almost made it, but you didn't.
No.
So, just for ruining Crow's plan, the thing about that you mentioned about being circular, the rotation of Viper, just lit like the proverbial light bulb in my head.
Ouroboros.
It's an Ouroboros.
Yeah.
It's the snake that eats eating its tail.
Well, this is more of a technical thing, because you have linear and circular rotations. So examples of circular rotations that we have on melee jobs already are Monk and Dragoon. They have circular rotations. Something linear would be the 1, 2, 3 of tanks.
No, but Viper means that when you finish the combo, it's going to still lighten you up for the beginning of the next. So it's kind of an endless circle.
Oh,
So
okay. My
that's-
connotation with Ouroboros is different, because serpent is the English translation. That's not quite how the actual tongue of it goes. But that's
Okay.
very specific to me growing up in that language.
Yeah. And the Viper LB3 AC Gear says is called World Devourer.
Oh,
is very
see, that
interesting.
makes way more sense.
But see-
so we are fully putting that on Yama
Here's and this is something that Meowth, this is your fault. I was thinking about Viper, and then I immediately went back to Ramu's lyrics, talking about the worm devouring the world.
I'm going to have to set something up for this, given my history, aren't I? I will work on that when I finish Viper. Yeah.
Okay.
It's I got you, because it's brought to you by, I'm planning my next tattoo, and it's literally the symbology of Odin from FF11 in the style of the Jomangenta, the Ouroboros, as
Nice.
you would call it. For FF11 reasons that I'm going to torment Crow about later, because he did this to me.
I'm very excited to hear the explosion of Aeneas's head tonight at the live letter.
Absolutely,
Oh,
I'm going to be live tweeting that whole thing. The floodgates have been unleashed. That singular screenshot confirmed what I have been on my hands and knees begging for.
Yep.
So I pretty please, Nagbalana, on my hands and knees. Just the scrap of the recognition that he deserves. That's all I want. Not Crow laughing maniacally in chat. My god.
So let's proceed.
Well, I mean, that's the last melee DPS, and yeah,
Yes.
after that we're on range DPS, so we can actually stop here for now. This is a good spot,
Okay.
and then we'll
I'm
have to
going
pick
to-
this
you're
up again later. I didn't expect
you're
it to go
going
so
to-
long.
You're going to blue bolt here, but me
Oh,
here, but
It's more for next week. He's drawing it out. It's
Well,
more fun that way.
Next week we
next
have
week we
Pyro.
have Pyro.
Oh, I
And then-
forgot.
Yeah, and then the week after that, oh my god, is that
And you bet
Gateway?
your ass with Pyro I'm going to bring up the unholy file.
Yeah, and then the week after that we're at Gateway.
Oh gosh, is it really so close?
Yeah, it is.
Dang.
And speaking of Gateway, we have stickers.
Heck yeah. Come see us for
Yes.
stickers.
Yes.
I also have leftover Arcadian ribbons from Dragon Con. I have 40, 50 of them left. So if y'all want one, come see us.
Yeah. And then tomorrow, we will be having a panel at AetherCon. Yes, and that will actually be at our old time slot at 2:30. And we're going to be talking about what, Mouth?
Evilise, which is basically the entirety of Final Fantasy 14. I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, for everyone saying, everyone has been hammering since Stormblood, Evilise copium. Yeah, you're going to
Yeah, but it just keeps coming up, doesn't it?
to regret it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does keep coming up. That's the whole thing. It has not stopped coming up ever since fucking Stormblood.
A lot of interesting stuff there. So AetherCon is going on right now, actually. If you want to check it out, you can go ahead and visit aethercon.com for schedule and, or sorry, aethercon.net for schedule and events. And it's going on Crystal Data Center right now. So very exciting. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. So please check it out. Come see our panel. It will be on AetherCon's official panel stream. And then
Or European time would be more or
Yep.
less around 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 10 p.m. my end.
Yes.
For other, but I am GMT +1. So if you guys are from Europe, you do the math. Yeah, for me, it's GMT +1. So regular GMT would be 9 p.m.
So yeah, good stuff. A lot of cool stuff going on. So please be sure to check it out. And then in 2 weeks we'll be at Gateway Fate. Oh God, I can't believe it's 2 weeks away. I have so much to get done. Anyway, that does it for our episode today. We will continue this later at a later date, probably in about
Soonish.
3 weeks. We will pick, yeah, soonish, and we will pick up the range DPS and magic DPS and healers. So
And healers.
especially healers. We have a lot to talk about there. It'll probably take as long as Paladin to go over White Mage. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to the team.
Crow. I hate you, Crow. you should be grateful that Ayumi's not here to yell.
Down. Save it for y'all's panel tomorrow.
Yep. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.